because I forgot to start recording early enough last time, and something interesting happened. So I'm doing the Coptic dialects class between these two sessions now, which means I have to keep this to 1 hour, at least the first class, especially I have to keep to 1 hour. And instead of studiously using our time, I went off on a bunch of tangents about Coptic etymology and all these other things I talk about. And we didn't actually get finished with all the exercises. So in this class today, we are going to do the same number of exercises that they did. So if anyone watching the video is wondering, why don't we get all the way through lesson 14 today? Well, it's because we're going to finish lesson 14 next time, because I was not totally responsible in my time management, because I wasn't thinking about the fact that I had to actually stick to an hour. So in this class, we are in no rush because we're going to do 28 questions from the exercises. Before then, I would like to remind everyone that it is the season of Girl Scout cookies. If you haven't bought your Girl Scout cookies, make sure to buy some. They're delicious.
They sponsor this video?
They don't have to. I am donating on their behalf the sponsorship of this video because it's a wonderful organization. Unlike the Boy Scouts, which I am still a member of, they have always been very progressive and LGBTQ friendly, and obviously feminist, and all of these wonderful things that I would like to support. So they don't have to give me any money. I will happily give them mine, and you should too. And in exchange, they will give you delicious cookies, which you can eat. So yeah. Okay, so that's my plug for the Girl Scouts. And yeah, we'll just get started. I'm gonna share my screen. If you hear any crinkling or munching in the background, you'll know what's up. Okay, so this is as far as we got the last time. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at, but it's not the whole thing. I'm just gonna put a little space there so I know where it is. Okay. And then here I have 6 people, and it looks like we have 27 questions, which just so almost divides evenly that it's frustrating. Okay, we'll just do 4, and then we'll figure out the last chunk of it because it doesn't really divide evenly. So Rasmus, would you like to do the first 4?
Sure, I just needed to find the unmute button. Right, so number 1 is Empuwosh ehun ehuneron, which is they did not want to approach us.
Yes. What kind of verb is this? Empuwosh?
This would be the negative of the first perfect, right?
Very good. Now, actually, I'm glad you said that, because what you said is just a tiny bit incorrect, but in a way that's especially useful. The negative of the first perfect, which we haven't actually learned yet in this class, would be impatuwosh. So the first perfect actually does have a distinct negative. What it doesn't have is a distinct affirmative.
Okay.
So this is actually the negative of the first preterite.
All right, I was confusing perfect with preterite. It's the one that we had in, was it chapter 11 or something in, or where was it in Lambden?
Good question. I actually don't remember specifically, but it will only take me just a second to find it in here. I think it was the first verb form we learned. And I think Lambden doesn't do a great job of highlighting the fact that this is actually 2 forms. Okay, yeah, he calls it the first perfect. So, no points deducted on your exam if you inadvertently call it the first perfect, because that's what Lambden calls it. But there are actually 2. There's a preterite and a perfect, and in some Coptic dialects, they're actually distinguished. The perfect has an initial hori to distinguish it from the preterite. In Saidic, they are not distinguished in any way. They're both written exactly the same way. So this would be in the affirmative, awosh, right?
Yeah.
That would be the same for both. In some dialects, this would actually be like this. So the perfect would be hawosh, and the preterite would be awosh. In Saidic, they are exactly identical, so it can be hard to distinguish. There are some cases where there's no point in distinguishing because it doesn't really make a difference. There are some cases where you can distinguish just by like meaning or context or whatever, like it doesn't make any sense to say, I don't know, I have watched the movie yesterday or something. Like you would just say I watched. Like obviously that's going to be a preterite, but they are two separate forms that happen to be apparently identical, which is confusing. We know that they're two separate forms.
Okay, great.
And there's one more thing I wanted to say about that. Oh yeah, so Lambden uses the word preterite to refer to what is undeniably and objectively the Coptic imperfect tense. So that adds an extra layer of confusion. I have no idea why in the world Professor Layton very recently decided to just rename the obviously imperfect Coptic tense as the preterite in his books, but it throws everyone off. Preterite generally means a single event in the past, and that's what awosh would be referring to. So yeah, I'm going to use it correctly.
Yes.
Okay.
I go on to number 2.
Sure.
And then that is enta pekiot mu tenau, which would be when is it that your father died, or when did your father die?
Yeah. So what kind of verb do we have here?
Yeah, this would be the second perfect. Is that what Lambden calls it?
It is what Lambden calls it. I would call it the second preterite, but then I'm just being kind of uptight about that. Yeah. So the second past tense form. How can you tell that it's second tense and not relative first tense?
Yeah, if it were the relative form, it would have, or it would most often have an extra e in the beginning.
No. So that's what Lambden says. That's not true. I don't know why he thinks that. I think he wants to give the student something to kind of cling on to. No, they are identical. The second preterite and the relative first preterite are formally identical. The way you distinguish them is, well, it's a whole bunch of other ways, which is exactly why I'm asking you this question, because I'm trying to kind of tease out all of these ways to give you some tools to use. The true way is that if you know how to read Coptic very well, you just know, right?
Yeah.
But that's not very helpful when you're learning. So so in this case, how would we know that it's second tense and not first tense?
So is it, I guess it's a matter of interpreting the context. And then when this is being a question, it's more likely to be the second perfect.
Exactly right. Yeah. And how do you know that this is a question?
The tenau, which means
exactly.
10.
I was so afraid that you were going to mess with me and say the question mark. And I was like, oh no, I just opened myself up to that one so bad. Yeah, it's the tenau.
I'm assuming that they didn't use question marks in Coptic.
They didn't. They sometimes do use the Greek question mark that looks like a semicolon. But usually no. Usually there's nothing at all.
Like that is usually later.
Yeah. Most of the time you kind of have to just know, and the context will tell you. I mean, it's not it's not like anything major is hinging on this question, and you just can't figure it out. So yeah, so the tenau tells you, and it's pretty much guaranteed that if you see a tenau in the sentence, you're going to have a second tense. That's one of the few really nice guarantees that you get with this stuff.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Okay, number 3. As shope de enterichok ebol empahob I tuo I tone I vogebol. So that would be, it happened that when I did away with or finished my work, I got up and I left.
Good. Yeah, exactly. What verb form is this?
That would be the temporal.
Good. Yeah, exactly right. The temporal. Okay. What about this?
I don't. So just a second. That would be the regular, what Lambdin calls the first perfect, right?
What do I want to call it?
You want to call it the first preterite.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Right.
Because it isn't I have gotten up and I have gone out.
Right.
How do we know that it isn't? Well, because that doesn't really make any sense. Why would you say it that way? I have gotten up.
Yeah,
when you're
sure.
telling a story. Yeah. So, and I'm just highlighting this because I said something earlier when we were looking at this one, like, how can you decide? Well, we just have the bare word by itself, but we have all this context and we have like common sense. And so it's like, okay, it's preterite.
Sure. Okay, the last one. Nim pentaunochef pesteko pensachpe.
Yeah, exactly right. When you said peshteko, why did you stress it in that way?
I think I read something in Lambdin that an omicron in the last syllable of the word was always stressed.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, good. Well done.
And I would translate it as perhaps literally, who is the one whom they threw into prison, or just who did they throw into prison? He was our teacher, or it was our teacher.
Yeah, good. Oh, whoops. What kind of verb is this thing?
Yeah, this is tricky. So I believe it's the per, which is this this sort of pronoun thing that functions as a copula combined with the relative form.
Very close.
Perhaps it's combined with the second perfect, second preterite.
It could be. So I'm going to ask you to make a decision. Do you think it is the second preterite or the first relative preterite? The relative first preterite.
Okay, I'm probably wrong. I'm going with the relative, the first relative.
Yeah, that's what it is. And this, you said something that was very slightly incorrect in regards to this. This is, well, not incorrect. It's just, I'll just explain. So yes, this is formally identical to the copula. And in fact, the copula is derived from a demonstrative adjective. So it is actually the same. It is also derived from a demonstrative adjective, but this is actually the definite article. The masculine singular definite article. So who is the whom they threw him into the prison?
Yeah.
This is very closely analogous to the way that German uses articles as relative pronouns. Like the article can just be a relative pronoun, or it can be an article in front of a noun, and you just know from the way it's structured which one it is in that moment.
Right.
Rasmus, what is your native language?
Danish.
Danish. Does Danish do that as well with the?
No, it has a separate relative pronoun or relative particle.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't use the article like German. We have a definite article that's attached to the end of words, so it doesn't function as a relative.
Oh, right. Like I think Swedish does that as well. The definite
or the
article
Scandinavian languages do.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, if you notice anything analogous to things in Danish, by all means, please drop them in, because that's always interesting.
Thanks.
AA, do you want to take 4 of these?
Sure. All right. So 5 is Aimpewe Much and Moin. The heavens filled with light.
Good. Yeah. What sort of verb here?
We've got a first preterite.
Or?
a first perfect.
Yeah, how do you decide?
Well, I guess in this case, there really isn't anything to decide by, so it's going to have to be the rest of the context, whatever it might be.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, it's like, you know, take your pick. The heavens have filled with light, or the heavens filled with light at some point in the past. Yeah, it doesn't actually really make a difference, honestly, but it's just kind of whichever thing you're choosing to pay attention to, the present state of affairs as a result of the event in the past, or the actual event in the past. So are you telling a story, or are you talking about what's happening right now? Yeah, no real way to tell. So good.
Cool. All right. So 6 is entaf iehune cosmos empef wosh. And this is, it was of his own volition that he came into this world.
Okay. AA, why in the world did you structure that translation that way?
That was the suggested translation by Lambden for the second perfect.
It is, yeah. He really wants you to translate it as a what we call a cleft sentence. So literally, this says he, second tense, came into this world by his will, right? And then in your translation, you said, what did you say, AA?
It was of his volition that he came into this world.
Right. And I'm just going to switch up your translation exactly. He came into this world of his volition, right? Is literally the Coptic word order. So why does Lambden want you to do that?
Well, this second perfect thing is apparently related to information structure, such that there's some kind of emphasis going on. And we signal this emphasis in English by using the cleft construction.
Yep. Okay, exactly correct. And really solid answer. That's exactly it. So the second tense is emphasizing something for sure. And we're trying to come up with a way to capture that in our translations. We want an accurate translation that reflects what the original text says. We also want something that sounds grammatical to a native English speaker's ears. The cleft sentence often is a good compromise, right? Because we might use that sentence in English, although it is a little stilted. You can imagine, at least in formal writing, we might use a cleft sentence for emphasis. In speech, we would probably just use stress, like he came into this world by his will. You know, I overemphasized it there a little bit, but yeah. Actually, let me see if I can find this. There's this really great example. It's just hard to search for things because if I don't get the words exactly right, it won't come up. Is it maybe with? Or let's see, John baptized. So I'm looking for a specific sentence that's like, John baptized you with water, but I will baptize you in the Holy Spirit. So it's one of the things that Jesus says. Did I already search for that? Trying to find some way to actually look up where that phrase, you know what, I'm just going to Google it.
Isn't that in Matthew somewhere near the beginning?
Maybe.
I think I remember it from Leighton's Reader.
Oh, nice. Yeah, this is one of the examples that I think he uses. Oh, Acts 1:5. And it's probably elsewhere too. Oh, 3:11. I baptize you with water for repentance. Let's just go to Acts 1:5 because that's you know, got it here. Acts 1.5. Let's see if Adobe Search can actually function once in its life. Yes, amazing. Wow. Okay. Because John indeed baptized with water, and ye shall be baptized with the Holy Spirit after not many days. That's not actually the one I wanted. I might look at others. Yeah, this one actually doesn't have a second tense. So there's one, I'm gonna rearrange this. There's one that actually has a second tense. So it's Luke 3:16, Matthew 3:11. Oh man, someone should tell people about in Texas about Luke 3:16, because maybe it's even better, and they can write that on billboards. My favorite thing driving through the South is there's just these random signs around that say repent. That's it. There's just it's like a whiteboard with the word repent on it. And I've tried to tell other people about this and no one else has ever noticed them. So I have no idea whether there really is this weird thing or whether it's just like like God trying to speak to me through these signs. I have no idea. Creepy as hell, that's for sure. I want to, no, this is the one about, oh, it's just they're really far apart. He shall baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. So this is actually John saying it. Okay, well, this is taking longer than I meant it to. Oops, what in the world? I'm gonna try one more and then come back to it later if I can't find it. He will baptize you with the one who will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. Oh, here the second tense is actually, it's actually John's baptizing with water. So this isn't exactly the phrase I remembered, but this actually works. But I baptize y'all in a water for a repentance. Let's see what Bukharic has. I give y'all a dunking in a water for a repentance. No second tense here. Here, yes, second tense. It's the second present, so it's not actually a form that we've learned yet, but definitely a second tense. So the argument that emerges from all of the things like this, sorry, it wasn't the greatest example, but the argument that emerges is that what is being emphasized is some sort of adverbial adjunct. So Alan and others have spoken a lot about the distinction between the subject-predicate alignment and the theme and reme alignment. So, partition, I guess, the subject-predicate partition of the sentence and the theme and reme partition of the sentence. So in a sentence like this, the subject is impewe, the heavens, and then the predicate is filled with light, right? The theme of this sentence is also the heavens, and the reme, so theme refers to the known information, kind of the starting point, and reme refers to the novel information that's being expressed by the sentence. The theme is, again, the heavens, it's also the subject, and the reme is filled with light, also the predicate, right? In other sentences, for instance, if I were to say, it was yesterday that the heavens were filled with light. In that case, the heavens were filled with light is contains both subject and predicate, but is actually, that whole thing is the theme, and it was yesterday becomes the reme. I'm not saying anything about the heavens being filled with light. I'm not telling you about this event. I'm assuming that we both know about this event, and then I'm adding extra information to that. So that the heavens filled with light is the theme. Yesterday is the reme. So what basically happens with the second tenses is it is a signal to the listener that subject and predicate and theme and reme are no longer neatly aligned in the way that they are most of the time. And that's where the cleft sentence really comes in, because in the cleft sentence you say it is reme, that theme, right? That's the construction. And it's just one way of expressing this. Another way of expressing this is to say theme in a normal neutral speaking voice, and then put put special stress on the reem. So he came into this world of his own will, right? You put special stress on that as the reem. The general argument for what the second tenses do comes from an Egyptologist specialist in language named Hans Jakob Volotsky, who wrote that the second tenses are used to emphasize an adverbial adjunct. So, just to remind you, an adverbial clause is either an adverb like yesterday or when, an interrogative adverb, or it can be a prepositional phrase like by his will, or even to this world, or whatever, right? Those are all adverbial phrases. And Volotsky's argument is that the second tense emphasizes one of those adverbial phrases, and it sets up this contrast between subject and predicate and theme and reem, right? It was by his own will that he came into this world. The problem with that, okay, so before I say the problem with that, I have to say that this view that the second tenses and other Egyptian emphatic tenses emphasizes an adverbial adjunct caught on in Egyptology. It's obviously at least correct to some extent, and nobody knew what the second tenses were before then. We were just calling them first and second because we didn't have any other way of distinguishing them. And that caught on, and over time it formed this whole like body of theoretical understanding of Egyptian language, which became known as the quote unquote standard theory of Egyptian language. That is still taught at a number of institutions today, most notably at the University of Chicago, which is still considered the one of the very best places in the world to learn about Egyptian language. Although I personally would question that, because when I was going to grad school, I specifically chose to go to Brown and study with Jim Allen, and I did not want to go to the University of Chicago. And I know many other Egyptologists of my generation who made the exact same decision. But it has historically been kind of the gold standard, and the standard theory has been the standard theory. There are a lot of problems with this idea. We can spend a whole class on the problems with the standard theory. But the basic problem as it relates to Coptic is that there are a huge number of these second tense constructions that either clearly don't emphasize an adverbial adjunct or don't even have an adverbial adjunct to be emphasized at all. Like there's just not a prepositional phrase or an adverb in the entire sentence, so that can't possibly be correct. Volotsky referred to these as his forms abusif, which means like abusive forms, in my crappy pronunciation of the French phrase. And that's kind of how he dealt with it. Obviously, these days, identifying evidence that doesn't match your hypothesis as abusive is generally frowned upon in good scientific practice. But the name stuck. The problem is that these abusive forms, if you actually go and run the numbers and dig through a PDF like this and find all of them, they're roughly as frequent as the adverbial adjunct emphasizing forms. So there's actually a few more abusive forms than there are normal forms. And that's kind of a big problem. If you want to say that something works a certain way, you can't say that most of the evidence is wrong in order to do it. It's just a very obvious case of special pleading. So we have to deal with that somehow. We have to figure out what the second tense does. The alternative way of understanding it that I will offer to you, and you're free to take or leave or argue with me about or whatever, is that I almost always translate these as an English emphatic, and then the correct meaning tends to kind of shake out of that naturally. So in this case, we would say, he did come into this world of his will. And in the appropriate context, that the fact that of his will is being emphasized will kind of shake out of that. So somebody might say, he didn't come into this world of his will, hypothetically. And you say, no, he did come into this world of his will. And then the part that's being emphasized kind of just becomes obvious And it really works exactly the same way in English as it does in Coptic, where you have to kind of understand what the conversation is about to pick up on what's being emphasized. So I tend not to use the clef sentence construction because it kind of imposes my own personal answer on the translation. Whereas if you use just like an English emphatic construction, it still gives leeway to the reader to decide, what's most important here or what is actually being stated as the ream. And again, take it or leave it. You're perfectly welcome to use the clef sentence. In fact, I encourage you to try to construct the clef sentence translation, because that will be a big help later when you're studying, because a lot of Egyptological texts written in the 20th century actually use that construction. And if you can know what the original Egyptian grammar was, you can actually reverse some of the damage done by the insistence on doing that, even when it's not appropriate. So yeah, that was a super long-winded, like 20-minute rant about all of that. But yeah, it's here. We're at that point in the book. We have to talk about these things. And no matter what you think about it, you will always be free to make up your own mind and translate things as you see fit. Okay, so AA, great job on number 6. Thank you for bringing us to that important topic. I'm sorry I spoke about it for so long. Would you like to continue with number 7?
Sure. And not at all. That was super interesting. Thank you.
Oh, good.
All right. So 7 is Ivol and Nesnau and Taumer Prome and Hetu. And that is, I loosened the fetters which bound the man within them.
Yeah. Which bound? Can you? It's not wrong. I want to make sure. Can you add a little more to that? Make it clear to me that you know what's happening in the Coptic.
Or I can also do it in which the man was bound.
You can, yeah. And that's an excellent translation, because you're using the passive voice, right? Which is a valid reading of the Coptic. You could also say the bonds which they bound the man in them. That's just all I was trying to like nudge you toward, just so I can make sure that you spot this third person plural pronoun in there. But obviously you did, because you got it correct. So what type of verb is this in Talmud?
That is the relative form of the first perfect / preterite.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, and in this case, it could be perfect or preterite, in my opinion, based on the meaning. So either way is fine. And yeah, I think that's all correct. What about number 8?
8 is Entakti and Peskema Hioktenau. And this is, when did you put on the monk's habit?
Yeah, good. Exactly right. And you used my suggested way of translating. Not sure how you could do this. It is when that you put on the monk's habit, I suppose, if you wanted to use a clef sentence. But even the most diehard standard theorists don't do that, because that would just be silly.
Yeah.
So yeah, when did you put on the monk's habit? Exactly correct. And then what is this thing?
That's the second perfect, or second preterite.
Second preterite.
Second
yeah.
preterite, yep.
Exactly right. Okay. Good stuff. Good job, AA. Ethan, do you want to take 4 of these?
Yeah. All right. So number 9. 9A in Shaje, Intal Shope, Impehu, Etamal. These are the speeches which happened that day. I hate that, but I don't know what it should be. Shaje.
I hate it too, Ethan. No, but it's not wrong. It's exactly right.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, it's exactly. I would translate Shaje. Keep in mind that yes, it does literally mean speech, but there's also this thing where it can mean like things, matters.
okay. I typically think that it means words, but words are said. Words don't typically happen.
Yeah, I know, it's
Um,
really confusing. But are there any Hytham? Kalam is used in this way. Can Hytham hear me? So there's a Egyptian Arabic word that means essentially speech, and it's related to all the words for speaking, but then it can also mean like this going on or things that are happening. And it was super confusing to me at first, but then it eventually clicks. But
gotcha.
yeah. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
Mustafa, you speak Arabic?
Actually not, but there is also in Turkish.
Oh, in Turkish you do this. What's the word?
Something like similar, kelam.
Oh, you use the Arabic loan word for like a situation.
Yeah. Or we said another loan word Arabic, something like hal, or a plural form of it, ahval.
Mm.
Is also bunch of these words for this situation.
Okay, so yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, Ethan, this word can mean speech or words, and it can also mean goings on. So these are the
Okay.
goings on which they happened on that day. And just very quickly, what is this verb form?
Oh, which is Intal Shope, the relative first.
Yeah, good. Relative first, exactly.
First something.
The first, I would guess preterite in this case,
Yeah.
but again, I'm not going to be too much of a stickler. I emphasize that so much because there are actually two negative forms, which is even if you only had Saidic dialect, if you didn't have the dialects that actually distinguish between the affirmative forms, we would still know that there probably need to be two separate verb forms that happen to be formally identical because of the distinct negative forms. There's impate and impe.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway.
All right. For 10, in Takwoch, hin te polistenau. When did you dwell in this city?
Good. Yeah. What's this thing?
Which thing? Oh, that is, I mean, it's interrogative, so I forget whether we decided that was the first or the second.
Interrogative is almost always the second.
Okay.
And that's another reason I really like translating the second tenses with the English emphatic, because you get this really convenient parallel with exactly what we do in English, right? We say, what did you say? We don't, except in certain dialects, say, you said what, right? We use the emphatic in questions, just like Egyptian uses the second tense in questions.
Okay. All right, 11. As shope de interes he erof, as fitif, as bokibol nimath. It happened that when she found him, she lifted him up and she went away with him.
Good. Yeah. What form is this? What type of verb?
The temporal past.
No, Ethan. God.
No,
damn it.
sorry. Oh. Okay, in my head. Damn it.
I set you up for that one. I'm sorry, but I couldn't resist. It's the temporal. Yes, you are correct. But there's no such word as temporal.
I'm sorry.
No, it's I'll get over it. The one I will not get over is doctoral. If I have to hear the word doctoral candidate one more time, I might explode. It's just doctoral. It's doctoral. Anyway, okay. Sorry. I took it out on you though, Ethan.
Nah, that's okay. I'm an easy target. All right.
What about number 12?
Intarhopol tone. Where did you hide them?
Yeah. And who are you speaking to when you ask this question?
Second person feminine, I believe.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah.
And what type of verb?
Oh, this is gonna be second then.
Yep.
Second,
Exactly.
perfect because it's interrogative. Yeah.
Yeah. Good job. All right. Thank you very much, Ethan. Sorry for lecturing you.
It's okay.
Christian, do you want to do 4 of these?
Sure. 13. Au mort na werete min nachis au kaat mauhipikro. So they bound me by my legs and my hands, and they left me there on the shore.
Or they left me there on
your mouth.
Definitely took me by surprise with that one. Or on your door, or your mouth, or your mouth. Yeah, so you can parse this either way. It's ambiguous. On the shore or on your door. It's just extra delightful that they rhyme in English. Unless you say on your mouth, in which case they don't rhyme, but it's delightful in a very different sort of way. Okay, what's up with this? What do you think about this?
I think it's very tragic. No, so the use of as like, also the direct object is obviously me, the person, but then they use the as like,
yeah,
I don't know, it's like, what would you call it? I forget all the grammatical terms, but like as
it's like replacing the pronoun.
Yeah, or like it's not, well, because like, can't you use also as like by means of, is it locutive? No.
Instrumentative, something like that. Yeah, that's like one of the uses of, like, for example, the Latin ablative, I think, where you do something by means of something, like you use something as a tool or as an instrument. You can technically in Coptic, they really don't like to. They normally use a longer, more more robust preposition. So I would expect like evolhiten or something for expressing like by means of an instrument. But that is one way.
I was gonna just say, not to mention, you wouldn't use your legs to tie someone up.
Right, yeah.
To tie someone up. So it's not really instrumental, it's more like, by what did they tie up, really?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of an edge case for like instrumental, because they're using ropes to tie the person, but they're also their points of attachment for the ropes are the hands and feet. So is that an instrument? I don't know. That is just one way to understand it, where you view n, that first n, as like a preposition, and they're using the hands and feet. Another way to understand it, which is the way I read it first, as always, you're welcome to disagree, but I read it as they bound me, my hands and my feet. So I read it as actually having 2 objects where they're just kind of like juxtaposed on purpose in a sort of poetic way. The fuller version of this would be like almoret, almur in werete, right? Like you actually would have to say the verb again. They bound me, they bound my hand and feet. But in a kind of a literary sense, you could say they bound me, my hands and my feet. And I think that sounds quite nice. Yeah, so I like that way, but yeah, nobody has to agree with me on that.
No, that sounds good. Sounds right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Because again, like, people back then weren't stuck to certain structures. It's like, you have to have a sentence with a noun, a verb, and an object.
Yeah, that's just not a real way that language works. I think that's just so there's this really famous joke in like the early days of computational linguistics, when they were doing all these like computer programs that analyze text, and one of the researchers working on it famously said, every time I fire a linguist, comprehension goes up. So like, we've made up all of these things for ourselves to explain to ourselves what language is doing, and then instead of just using those things to understand it better, we reversed it and like imposed those things onto what language can or can't do. And it's like we just lost the plot, right? Like, it's just not. It would be like me saying you should translate the second tense as using the English emphatic, and then like 10 years later being like, that can't be correct because it doesn't make sense in English. It's like, but that was just a tool for understanding. So yeah, so anyone who would object to that reading because it's like, well, it's not totally grammatical, it's like, yeah, but language isn't totally grammatical either. So
I did go to grammar school, so
yeah, exactly.
right.
Okay.
Nim pentateten ship nai ntotev. So who did y'all receive these from?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
From whom did y'all receive these? Yeah. What is this thing in Tateten Shepnai?
That's I'm really bad with the terms, but it's like the relative past or relative. Is it the relative first preterite in that case?
Yeah, it's the relative first, and preterite are perfect. I'm actually going to stop thinking about that distinction now because it makes my brain tired.
Well, I did that thing where I learned it with the sentences, and so I got more of an idea of how the grammar works, but I don't know any of the names to name it.
Yeah,
But
which is
because like in French class or something, we learn the names and whatever, but it's not like we're sitting there like that is the plusquamperfect.
Yeah.
The sentence.
I like that you pronounced that French phrase in a German accent for some reason. That's really fun. But yeah, like it can be actually kind of an interference to think about those things too much. And I don't think about those things at all when I read a Coptic text. And I've been like reading a whole bunch in German because I'm trying to like improve my German fluency. I don't even know anything. I don't know the name of anything. I don't even know the difference between adverbs and prepositions. I mean, or adjectives. Like it seems like they're kind of interchangeable sometimes. I don't know. Like as long as I can like
speaker, so obviously not necessary to know.
Right. So yeah, so we talk about these things just in case they're helpful, but yeah, we can also just forget them. Anyway.
15. Pipet mu entaf washif. This is the death which he wanted.
Yeah. So in the last class, I forget who read it, but somebody had a really good interesting alternative reading, which is this is the death who wanted him. So like death personified is like out for him. And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. But I actually read it the same way you did. This is the death which he wanted. Like he was 112 years old and he died in his sleep. And the next day, everybody was like, this is the death he would have wanted.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. That's the most,
the other
most
one
obvious reading.
Correct.
Yeah.
But pragmatism.
Right.
Mpef woh is impat intafta af now. So he didn't, I think I remember this one, he didn't add onto the money which he gave them.
Yeah, very good. Exactly correct.
Okay.
And probably time to let you off the hook and put Ralph on it. Ralph, do you want to do 4 sentences now?
Sure.
All right.
Mensanaide of Much in Rache. I always get confused by Menin, so that's after, I guess.
After, yeah.
And after these things?
Ensa means after, and then Menensa is just like, it's
afterward.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
Coptic
perfect.
word.
Afterwards.
Just a Coptic version of it. And Emsa from the Middle East.
Yeah. Ensa is also a word in Coptic, although it's used more often to mean something like except or besides, but it does literally mean after. And then Menensa, I suspect because it gained all of these like accumulation of related meanings, when you really wanted to say after, you said afterwards, right? You just put some meaningless morpheme, just stuck it on there, Menensa, and after.
All right. So, and after these things,
Yeah.
he was filled with joy.
Yep. Exactly. What is afmu?
I'm going to refer to that as the simple past, third person singular.
Works for me.
I guess I translated it as, I can never remember the difference between preterite and perfect, but the one that's already happened because
You know, you
just
have
because
to.
of the
I have
temporal word.
to think about it every single time, and it's like, yeah, the past in the before for. I don't know.
At ecclesia much in nechuin pomeshe. The church filled with the voices of the crowd.
Good. Yeah.
And I guess this would be the other one, the one that's a closer past. Feels more narrative. Intanim kaafhem peshteko, or peshteko, I guess we're supposed to say.
Yeah. Good.
Who put him in jail, I guess?
Right. And what kind of verb is this?
So this is the second.
Yeah. Where is our adverbial adjunct?
What's it emphasizing? I mean,
No,
it's a
no,
question,
no.
so I think that's
Yeah,
often enough on its own. But
it is enough on its own. This is just
I
like
mean,
the
if
perfect.
you wanted to push it, the him peshteko is could be adverbial, but
Exactly. If you
it
wanted to
doesn't
push
really make
it,
any
and
sense.
it doesn't make any sense. Ralph,
It's not that it was
there are
him who
people,
they put into jail. It's that it was into jail that they put him.
it was in the jail that who put him. There
Yeah.
are people, I swear to you, there are crazy people in this world who will insist on translating Egyptian sentences that way. Just read Simpson Literature of Ancient Egypt. All of Robert Rittner's translations are like that. Some of them are that much ridiculous. No joke.
Wow.
And you have to be able to kind of like, okay, what did the Egyptian really say? It was into the prison that who put him there? No, that's not. Yeah. No. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, good job. Correct translation.
And 20. In tatete nej nehiote ebol et beu. Why did you throw out your hyenas? These hyenas?
Why did you throw these hyenas out? And okay, so what is in tatetin nej nehuite?
So that must also be the second person plural.
And now what's being
and then
emphasized?
You have a nominative subject nehuite ebe, and then you et beu is your question word.
Good.
Which
yeah.
does not move to the front because it's Coptic.
Right, exactly. There's no WH movement or WH fronting it in Egyptian languages, and that includes modern Egyptian Arabic, which is just the funnest thing in the whole world. Modern Egyptian Arabic doesn't move question words most of the time either, and it probably inherited that from Coptic because other dialects of Arabic do. And then in this case, it actually is adverbial. Etbeu is a prepositional phrase with an interrogative pronoun. So yeah, it is.
You know, didn't throw these clothes out because why?
Yeah, exactly. Hyenas, but yeah.
And am I doing this one too, 21?
Yeah. Wait, no. Sorry. Yeah, you're finished. I'm sorry, Ralph. Hytham. Hytham, do you want to do 4? I think Hytham might have had to step out. Does anyone see him in the little list? But it looks like we have some new people that I don't have on my list. So we'll just rope y'all into it. Is that Johnny?
Yep, that's me.
All right, Johnny. And then I have Michael also. And I think Mustafa is here too. Mustafa, are you here? Okay, yeah, you're there. I see you.
Yeah. I'm here.
Okay, so that means we have 3 people who haven't got a chance, and we have 7 things. So everyone will get 2, and then there will be an extra, and maybe I'll take it for myself. So do you want to do these 2, Johnny?
Sure, great. Let's see, 21. A en Rome mur em Pomon Akos e Peto.
Good.
So let's see here. 21. The men tied the monk, bound the monk to the horse.
They did. This
Cool.
is another scene in our Coptic Western.
Oh yeah, it's true.
It's like when the ugly goes and visits his brother, who's like totally over his bullshit. If they kidnapped said brother, that would be the description of what happened there. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. 22 here. Anefbal muh en remie.
Remye.
Remie. Cool. 22. So I have his eyes were filled with tears.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
What sort of verb is this here?
Let's see. Is that simple past?
It is the simple past. Yeah, very good.
Cool. Sweet.
And it's actually active, although it's kind of hard to translate because in English, we normally want to use the passive to express this. So his eyes were filled with tears, but also his eyes filled with tears is literally what the Coptic says. But, you know, either way is fine. All right. Good job, Johnny. Sorry, you only got 2.
Oh, no problem.
I didn't see all y'all in here when I was parceling them out. Michael, do you want to take 2?
Yes, let me try. And tough osh and now nim. He wanted to see whom?
Yeah, good. He wanted to see whom, or maybe in more natural English order. How would you change it?
Whom did he wanted to see?
Yeah, whom did he want to see? And what kind of verb is this?
Second preterite, maybe.
Yeah, second preterite. Good. Okay.
Enta net. Okay. Enta net ten eote he ebol etbe neonobe. Neonobe. Their sin. Okay, because of their sin. They eote is verb. No, eote.
Yote is the plural of father. Yote.
Oh, yes. Our father. Okay. Our
Your fathers. Netzen yote.
Yes, your fathers. He ebol. Hey, what's that? Hey.
He is fall.
Okay.
And then evol is like out. So this is fall out, which is a Coptic idiom that means die. Also in The Wire, it's the slang phrase that they use in The Wire all the time for die.
Okay.
Interestingly.
So your fathers died because of their sins.
Good. Yep. Your fathers died because of their sins. Yeah, it's a tough world like that. Okay, thank you, Michael. And Mustafa.
Yeah. Menen sus de anei hun to synagogue. After we came into this synagogue.
Yeah, after we came into the synagogue. What kind of verb is this?
Preterite or first perfect. Lambden said.
Yeah, as Lambden says, the first perfect or the first preterite. Yeah, good. Okay, and 26.
Apel joy, mo and mo. Something like riddle. I don't know. So pel they let me check. Actually,
joy means boat.
I thought it's but okay. Their boat. Their boat moch. sink
Fill.
fill with water.
Yeah. Their boat filled with water.
Yeah,
That's it.
something like it's from Shipwreck Sailor.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they all died, all 140 men who were in it or whatever. But their hearts were braver than lions,
Yeah.
so they weren't even afraid of death. Okay, good. Their boat filled with water is 26, and U Pentaquomef and Po is 27. What did you, masculine singular, eat it today, or in the day? So what did you eat today? U Pentaquomef and Po. All right, so that brings us to the end. I don't know. Oh, we are out of time, so that's like exactly 1 hour. That's how it worked out the last time too. Okay, so we'll finish the rest of these exercises next time, and then look at lesson 15 and talk about some Coptic adjectives. Until then, I hope you all have a great week, and I will, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and let me know in the comments which was your favorite sentence. All right.
Thanks,
Bye, everyone.
hyenas. I just have a
Gotta be the hyena.
I just have a question about James Peter Allen Coptic part of the schedule on the list. What is it? What is it? I wonder about it.
Oh, so Alan just published this book of about the different Coptic dialects that has a brief grammar of Coptic with examples from multiple dialects put side by side, so you can learn about the different dialects easily. And we are going over that book. It starts 1 hour before this session. So it's like the first session, and then Alan's Coptic dialects, and then this session. So if you can come an hour earlier, come to that.
Okay.
It's in the syllabus. There's a link.
Okay.
And the video from that will be on YouTube today.
PDF form of it? Is there any PDF form of it?
So it's I put it in Discord. I can put it in the syllabus too. There is an ebook that is available for purchase. So the book was just published. So
Okay.
I can't just send you a PDF, but it's like $20. You can just buy the book. If anyone,
it's pretty expensive to me though.
Okay, Mustafa, send me an email.
Okay then.
Okay. All right. Everyone have a great week. I will see you next Saturday.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank